What would you do if you knew that you could get away with it? If you knew there would be no punishment, no consequence, and no regret? Would you play video games all night long? Would you spend all your parents' money on your very own sneaker collection? Would you eat dessert for every meal, take one of everything from your favorite store, or hack into your teacher's computer and give yourself all A's? I'm sure we could all make a pretty long list of things we would do if we were 100% sure we wouldn't experience the consequences for them later. Because, as I'm sure you know, there's nothing worse than having to face the consequence of something you did wrong. Guilt is one of those moods or feelings we experience when we've done something we know we shouldn't have done. It's the shame or regret or weight we feel when we know we've made a mistake or a choice that hurt us or someone else. And that feeling can stick with us for a long time. Here's what I want you to see about guilt. Just like any other emotion, the feeling itself isn't bad. When we experience guilt, it's a sign to us that something is off. Something needs to change. Something needs to get right within us. It's a good thing, in my personal opinion. If we didn't experience guilt, we wouldn't be able to recognize when we needed to take a step in a different direction or change something about us or make something right with someone else. It's not the guilt itself that I want you to run from. It's letting it control you, push you, boss you around into believing something that just isn't true about you. It's when the guilt becomes so great that it weighs you down and controls how you feel and how you act. So because we find freedom from guilt when we follow Jesus, here's what I want you to know. The first thing, you can stop being so hard on yourself. Maybe you're someone who struggles with a lot of guilt, or maybe you're someone who struggles with the weight of guilt that others try to put on you. You can stop believing the lies that guilt or even other people tell you about who you are because of what you've done in the past. Instead, you can embrace the grace that Jesus gives us to live a guilt-free life. Second, you can stop being so hard on others. This one, I know we all need to do sometimes because it's easy to look around and think about all the reasons we know other people should feel guilty for what they've said or maybe what they've done. It's easy to let that define who they are in our own minds. But when we accept Jesus' grace for ourselves, we can and we should also extend it to others. It doesn't mean that what they did or said wasn't wrong or hurtful, but it does mean that we can offer them forgiveness and a chance to start over, just like Jesus offers it to us. Even when they don't ask for it, we can still extend grace and forgiveness. The third thing is, you can let guilt remind you, but not define you. Remember how we said that guilt doesn't have to be a bad thing on its own? It can be a sign to us that something isn't right, that something needs to change. And because of Jesus, that's where it stops. Guilt can remind us of a path that we've walked before. It can help us not go down that road or make those same mistakes again. But it doesn't get the final say in who we are. It doesn't get to define us. And last but not least, you can make it right. This one is big. Sometimes we think that when we do something wrong, the most important thing for us to do is to pray and ask God for forgiveness. And while that's an important step, it's not the only step. Often we need to be brave enough to make the right choice and to make it right with the other person. Whatever it is that you're feeling guilty about doing or saying that may have hurt someone else, you need to work on that to make it right, to apologize, to ask for their forgiveness as well, to try and do better next time. Now maybe you're sitting right here watching this video thinking, well, of course you're talking about guilt at church. I mean, isn't that what church is supposed to do? Make you feel guilty? Actually, no. In fact, Jesus actually came to save us from ever having to let our guilt control us or boss us around. And I know that not just because the Bible says it, but because I've personally experienced that. I've experienced a freedom from guilt that I want you to experience too. To help us get there, we're going to look at a passage in the Bible written by a guy named Paul. Paul used to be named Saul. And if anyone knows about carrying around guilt, it's this guy. I mean, he used to imprison, hunt down, and kill Christians. That's what I think makes what he wrote here all the more interesting. Take a look. There is no guilt too heavy to weigh us down because Jesus set us free. And Paul finished with saying this. Jesus gave us the power of his Spirit, the power that brings us life. And that is a power stronger than guilt. Because of what Jesus did for you, guilt doesn't have to be the boss of you. Paul experienced this firsthand. Because of Jesus, Paul was able to step out of guilt and all the things that he had done in his past. But Jesus gives us a different option. He gives us a chance to start over. He gives us grace. He gives us freedom. Is this a free pass to do whatever you want? Not at all. But it's a new way to look at the mistakes that we make. A freedom to try again. A way to not be weighed down by our feelings of guilt. A chance to get rid of our guilt once and for all. Now I want you to remember this, that guilt doesn't have to be the boss of you.